はい、マジでしずくたんすぎてます。
Well, what's up, everyone? Welcome to a special bonus episode 2 of season 2 of 3 out of 10 anime fans recommend you check out this podcast if you ever get reincarnated into another world, aka 3 out of 10 anime. This show is all about having fun conversations to rank anime based on a standard set of criteria so they can be compared, contrasted, and recommended. We discuss a different show or movie each week, so whether you're a seasoned weeb or new to the genre, we know you'll have a good time. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Here's the agenda for each episode. We start out by giving our first impressions, summarizing our feelings of the show in one sentence. Then we go to our personal enjoyment, which is a 1 to 10 ranking based on our own personal rubrics about how much we liked watching the show. Then we have an intermission for some fun facts, some surprises, and then we jump into our technical assessment where we try to agree on a collective rubric with 4 criteria on a technical accomplishment scale of 1 to 10. Then we finally wrap up the show with comparisons and recommendations to other shows you should watch if you like this one, and announce our next week's show. I'm Brett.
I'm Skyler.
And I'm Braydn.
We are your hosts from the United States. We each have varying opinions, tastes, and backgrounds, which should result in some interesting and relatable dialogue, no matter who you are. We're grateful you're joining us for our discussion about this week's show, the slightly ecchi romantic comedy, My Dress-Up Darling. We're going to be covering the whole thing. It's available on Crunchyroll, the whole thing as of time of this episode, which is season 1. So expect spoilers. We open the whole kimono and leave nothing out, much like some of the characters in the show. Okay. Also, mature content warning. I said this is an ecchi anime, so be prepared for that if you decide to watch it. But without further ado, how would you guys summarize your feelings about My Dress-Up Darling in one sentence? What do you got?
Well, I will lead in. I've said this many a time since we started watching this show, that this, to me, is a love letter to cosplay. In anime form. It is endearing how much love and attention they do to like instructing and clearly and entertainingly reflect how cosplay is performed. So that was a delight to me.
All right. I'll go next. I'm going to say, summarizing my feelings, I enjoyed how surprised I was, how sincere of a show it was, despite the fact that it got pretty close to a line I don't enjoy on multiple occasions. It stayed away from it pretty well and had some really genuine, good, wholesome parts to it that led me really happy I watched it, and I even recommended it to my wife. Skyler.
All right. It's kind of mirror what you said, which is where it's a pretty good take on essentially like a slice of life for cosplay is how I would describe this one. And that's pretty much it. Because I guess to launch into the enjoyment, even though it's kind of like there's supposed to be this romantic thing going on, there really isn't.
It's true. We are not currently launching into the personal enjoyment discussion because we have first scores to do, dear Skyler.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's score it up. Skyler, what did you give My Dress-Up Darling on your enjoyment from 1 to 10?
All right, so for me, I gave My Dress-Up Darling a 7.5. And so for me, a 7.5 is between a show that I liked and might recommend, but I'm not likely to watch it again, to one that I enjoyed and had problems, and I might, maybe, watch it again with others.
All right. Braydn, what about you?
So for my ranking, I think I'm going to have to break my rules a little bit on this one, just because I know what your guys' ranking is. I'm going to give this one a 6.9. I mean, I'm actually going to give it a 7.5 for this show.
Hey, 7.5. All right.
7.5. I'll just give you my 8 score, though. Like my rubric reading is my 8 anime, which this like reaching towards are ones that are borderline an inspirational experience to me and my enjoyment and my willingness to binge it or whatnot. But there's some minor points that, that affect my score, and I can't really overcome them without where I otherwise could give them a better score. That's what I want to say. There it is.
Okay. All right. I am going to, for the first time, I believe, in the history of our podcast, round us out by saying that I also gave My Dress Up Darling a 7.5.
Hey,
which
yo!
means we all give it a 7.5.
Oh, we agree on something for once in this entire podcast. Oh my goodness.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. We hope you tune in next time.
Yeah, it's like
Nothing to talk about.
it's like the time when we all agree if the episode or the anime we watch is a 3. That's when we just end the show. That's like the penultimate 3 out of 10 anime, right?
If it's a 3 in technical?
Yeah,
Just
no,
three
3
technical?
for personal. We just rounded out. Yeah. Anyway, Brett, what's your 7.5 score?
Yeah, so for me, a 7.5 is a show that a show that I really enjoy. It keeps me interested. I'm entertained and engaged, but there's some things that seriously bother me that kind of keep it from reaching up. And an 8 is a show where the flaws are enough to keep me distracted. So the flaws from a 7 to an 8 just become a little bit bigger, and maybe I'm not quite as sucked in to a 7 as an 8. So that's where I'm at for a 7.5. All right. With that being said, why did we all agree? Why did all of us? Now, a couple things real quick before we dive in. First off, I think it's important to note that none of us are really into hardcore ecchi anime or even things more than My Dress Up Darling, really. We're definitely not into hentai, anything like that. This is a pretty ecchi show sometimes. So for 3 guys who really avoid that kind of stuff typically, why'd we give a 7.5 to My Dress Up Darling?
Well, I mean, I think we are all in the kind of the lean. It's like, that's what keeps it from a higher score from us. Like,
yeah,
honestly, okay, so I've been thinking a lot about this because this is my second time through watching My Dress Up Darling. And the first time I was like, man, they're just pulling all these tropes of showing the main girl and all of her thong and the bikini scenes, and they're just framing these shots. And then on my second watch, I realized that most of those clips that I found egregious are happening at the start of the show. And I think that's important because I think they're trying to establish her general sexiness, her general, like, frivolity, energy. Because most times when they do have boob or butt shots after then, it's kind of because she's in a cosplay or that's the scene they're trying to set up, and not just, oh, there's her boobs again, like a lot of anime do. I still think they do have those shots in of just random boobs for no reason. And that's not what I want. That's kind of what holds it back for me, honestly, because there's a lot of love about this show, but that's not it for me.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat as you, where, like, I'm in the same boat as you, but maybe in like a different section of the boat. So like my section of the boat is I really miss like physical intimacy in anime. And what I mean by miss is like there's very few shows that have it. And so the moments where this show does have that, and it's like I enjoy that kind of thing. That's my love language. That's the kind of person I am. I like seeing characters hold hands or hug or accidentally get into funny situations like at the Love Hotel. So like I personally do enjoy that kind of thing. It can go too far. So I enjoyed that there was a little more of that kind of relationship. But also, as you said, Braydn, I was also like, okay, like I've gotten the point. Like you've hooked me in with a certain level of fan service shots. It gets to a point where they're a little egregious for my taste. And so, yeah, that is what kind of kept it down for me a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think of all the like the rom-com setups, cosplay is a good one to get away with a lot of that stuff, honestly.
That's true. It's justified.
Like
That was something I was going to pull up, which is where it's like, considering the subject matter, that's just a part of cosplay. That's just a part of it. And so there is going to be a certain level of that you just can't get away from and cover the subject material appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they earnestly are trying to like get us involved in the cosplay sphere and have open us up to conversations about what it means to be a cosplayer or be a male clothing designer, right?
Yeah.
And photography and on and on and on. It teaches us a lot actually in the show. And so it wants to have these conversations like, okay, it's silly. Look at this guy. He's making girls' clothes. Oh, boy. Ooh. And so they have to have some lean to that. And that's why it's kind of hard for me to like just outright say, fan service, bleh. Because it's this is the place to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Not just every school locker room or every classroom or every boy's bedroom, like in every other show. This is the place. Like, you are designing clothes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Skyler, go ahead.
Well, no, and it's exactly that. And yeah, again, like with how I said earlier, where it's like, that's just the subject matter. You can't talk about having any piece of clothing that fits a woman well and not talk about how it fits around her bust. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. That's not how that works.
Yep.
Or you're just skipping over something that should have been addressed.
In fact, they at one point kind of address how to make one of the characters look like a man because she wants to cosplay as a gender bent character.
Yeah.
And there are very specific things that you got to do to be able to make that magic work, and which they explain in the show for how much like yen it translates to doing for that. I'm like, that's fascinating. Thank you for making this known because that's cool. Mm-hmm. Listeners, I went. And get ready for this episode. I went and made sure that these guys came prepared to talk about cosplays we'd like to do. We're going to do that later in the show, but this show got me so excited about cosplaying, and it does every time I watch it. Like, that's what it comes to. It's like, I am ready to get into some anime, like, form. I don't know what this translates to, but I can make it work. You can do anything to work. This show taught me that.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't work, you can still go for it.
People love it anyway. I mean, we did do that on our what episode was that? Gurren Lagann. When I showed up with the sword and the glasses and the body paint. Yeah.
Go check out Braydon's cosplay from our Gurren Lagann episode. Also, you might be surprised about our rating in the Gurren Lagann episode.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Especially, talking about fan service.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Needless fan service.
That's the difference, I think. That's a big difference. Like you could say that there's the same level of fan service from that show to this show, but as we talked about, in this show, it is thematically relevant. In Gurren Lagann, it is absolutely ridiculous, egregious, and superfluous. It is not... No. it is not justified in any way, shape, or form, and so it becomes completely obnoxious. Whereas in this show, it's not obnoxious as much.
Oh man.
Yep.
Good old. I mean, kudos to Gojo. I just say kudos to Gojo for existing in that world, because man, he pulls through. Is the thing about his character is he actually like shows up to this party. Regardless of all the, the etchiness getting around him.
Yeah. Well, what did we like about it? Like we talked about the fan service thing. That's a given. I'll bring up one thing. Braydn, I'm gonna let you have the podium for the cosplay part of the show. Yeah. Because I know you really want to talk about that. So the point I'll bring up is the interesting and relatable character of Gojo Wakana. His like relationship with Hina dolls and the psychology of what happened where he was a kid trying to deal with trauma, and he took the trauma he couldn't process and transformed it into a passion for beautiful dolls, and in a way, like it's almost like you could argue it's almost like an unhealthy psychological dependence that he hasn't worked through. But that's kind of what the beauty of the show is Marine is helping him kind of work through this trauma. It's kind of a deep thing, and it's interesting, and I love seeing his growth and change through the show.
Yes.
The episode where particularly and Skyler, I know you want to comment on this, but the last thing I'll mention is the episode where he's staying up for a week making this first cosplay. He's like making himself sick, he's putting off schoolwork, he's doing all the things because he's just a good friend. That he's just a good guy, he's a good friend. And I related to that so hardcore. I've done that many times for friends, for girls I like, for people. He doesn't like her yet necessarily at that point, and I'll get on that in a minute, but like I really hardcore related to that, and I just thought it was a really cool moment in the show.
Yeah. And one thing I'll build on is that I'm current in the manga, and they actually kind of go into that a little bit with Gojo, but I don't think he recognizes it because his grandpa, Karo, kind of tells him, where it's like, hey, you're focusing so much on these Hina dolls, you need to branch out a little bit. And so from him going and doing all this cosplay stuff, like that's another point of anxiety that, like you mentioned, that he needs to work through but hasn't quite. And so even, throughout the story, it does kind of help him to start being like, oh, I can do other things, and I should be doing other things other than just this one thing I'm extremely passionate about.
Yeah.
And that is something that I really, really like about Wakana Gojo.
One moment about Gojo that really stood out to me was, it's like episode 9 or 10 or something where they go to the beach. It's a beach episode. There's like a seagull or something that like comes and steals her burger or something.
Oh, yeah.
And they're trying to like walk away from this seagull. And he does something crazy. He pulls a burger out of the bag. He turns around, he hucks it the other direction. He turns around and says, we gotta run. It's distracted. We gotta go right now. I'm like, what is it? Whoa, this shy boy just did the first proactive non-doll thing in this entire show. Hit it, man. Way to go, man.
Yep.
I mean, I was going to list it as, like, that was his first moment of really standing up for himself, but it's not true, actually, because there are many times where he stands up for himself and saying, hey, Marin, I know you're this wild, like, sexually open character, but, like, I'm not okay with that. Can you calm down a little bit? Mm-hmm. There's, like, 3, like, specific times in there that...
Her white Amazon cosplay was one of those.
That's the big one, for sure. It's like... And she responds to that in a very interesting way. She says, like, now that you say that, I'm now aware that's probably uncomfortable for you. I'm sorry for making you go that one. I'll be conscious of that ahead of time. And that's a relationship, crew.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful relationship for them.
That's what adds to this show being ranked so high for all of us is the fan service is there, but there's also moments where it's addressed in a healthy way between conversations with characters that's like refreshing.
To add on to that, it's also dressed in a semi-realistic way of, like, again, like you just said, Braydn, he was uncomfortable about it. He said he was uncomfortable about it, and then they handled it in a way that was good.
She even tags on a joke at the end, like, okay, I'm not gonna make you like photograph me on this. But do you want a picture? And he's like, no, stop! I don't want that. Got him. Braydn does a little got him at the end of that. Like, good Marin. Good old Marin.
Yeah, and I will say that, just the way that the relationships feel is why it is ranked so high. But, yeah, this is definitely a slice of life one, because... Unfortunately, here's a little bit of spoiler even from the manga. The romance doesn't make any progress. So
And that's where I couldn't give the show any higher if I wanted, because I really hate when it's all tease and no action, and every time they're about to get close, something happens. I really don't like that. And that's actually why I disliked Kaguya-sama as much as I did, is because it took so long for the romance to happen. And and the sad thing is, like, I was hoping this show would be different, right? And then the last episode comes up, and granted, I was really happy with her saying what she did on the phone after he falls asleep. That was adorable. I loved that. That was so nice. That made me feel a little better that I knew that they're never going to get together, and the show is just going to continue to milk the audience for as long as they can.
See,
that just makes me sad.
I didn't know that they weren't going to go anywhere. That really, I'm disappointed right now learning this.
It's not that they won't. It's just that the amount of progress, like it's like when you're watching the loading bar and it just gets stuck for no reason, and it's just sitting at the same spot forever. It's just like, move. You should be doing something. Move. Do I need to like stop this and start it over? It just stops.
Loading bar anime.
I didn't even have to know what happened in the manga to know the show was going to do that. Based on how it ended, right? It's like, it's basically telling you, hey, you better be in this for the long teasy haul, kid, because it's going to be a while. So, yeah, that definitely makes me sad. I want that.
Because, like, I don't know. There's probably a world more to talk about with cosplay for, like, the story to, like, weave in and through, right? But that can't be that much more. That they're not going to progress the story, so I don't know. Maybe I'm hoping that they edit the manga so that we actually have a romance progression from here.
If that happens, I'd be down. But just with the way that it currently is in the manga, so manga spoilers, heads up, this is beyond anime spoilers. There's just a few new characters that get introduced, and they start doing cosplay stuff with those new characters, and that's pretty much what the focus is on.
Yeah,
there is a few relationship things between those new characters, as you would expect, but in terms of the relationship between Marin and Wakana, there's no progression, which is why I use the stuck loading bar example.
Shake my head.
Because even in stuff like Kaguya-sama or in some of these other romance comedies where it's like they take like not even a baby step, it's like a half of a baby step every time something happens, it doesn't feel like that in My Dress Up Darling. It's just they're where they are and there's no progression.
I don't know if I'll watch anymore. Maybe I will. This was a pretty good sticking season. Maybe I'll watch some more, but that's very sad to hear.
Well, the reason that I would recommend this is if you're into cosplay or even want to learn about cosplay. Because a hallmark of a good slice of life in my book is if whatever it is that slice of life is about, you're suddenly like really interested by it, or you have like a much greater appreciation for it.
Which I got 2 notes on that. One, when we watched K-On!, it did not do that for music at all. What a stinking rock bottom stinking treasure of a show. Good gall. Well, and 2, we say the same thing about having a love and investment interest after you watch the show. We say that same thing about sports anime. Very notably so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which
you could argue that sports anime is just a more action-y slice of life because it's a sport.
Yeah, no, that's actually true. Skyler, I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. I agree with you. Yes. Yes.
If there was more competitions in this show, this would have been the same tempo as a sports anime, 100%. They had like 4 different costumes, which is like 4 different meets, you know. They had they had the build up to get to the thing. They had the different characters woven in. Actually, that's not terribly true. There's a strangely low amount of characters in this show, which is pretty cool for how like invested I am with the main characters.
Yeah.
There's what? 5 introduced characters. There's the main guy, main girl, the 2 sisters, and grandpa.
Yep.
And there's other like 1 appearance the mother, 1 appearance the father, whatever. But those are the characters that actually like do something in the show. 5 characters. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
I agree.
Yep.
So, Braydn,
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Hit.
Before we started recording this episode, I looked at our anime list, and I noticed you gave this show a 6.
Yep.
And then you raised it significantly. Mm-hmm. What happened? Why was it a 6? Why'd you raise it?
Man, I can only tell you that we've probably already run over it. But that's a very good question because it was a 6 for me. The first time through, I thought the fan service was just too flagrant and distasteful. And in this watch through, when I put it in the context of, okay, they're going for this sexual fun subject in the right setting of cosplay, that helped me forgive and understand why they did so many of these scenes throughout the show. And that lodestone of I didn't want to watch the show was taken off. And it's just the adorable characters and the scenes and the setups. Like it's still funny to me that this is a scene setup. There's a bit way early on where Gojo brings home some of his cosplay stuff and one falls out of his bag. His grandpa sees it. What is it?
Oh, that
Girls'
was
panties. The grandpa is so shocked, he falls on the stairs and has to go to the hospital. And because he does that, then Gojo has to watch the store for a week, and it's the same week when he's double stressing on exams and making his first ever cosplay. So it really helps put the duress on that moment of why he was so exhausted by the end of his first cosplay making. Is this silly, ecchi setup. Oh, my grandson has panties. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, I think as it got woven in. As soon as I understood the weave of the show, why this show worked, I liked it a lot more. It wasn't my first viewing, though. That's a good note, Brett, for sure.
Sweet. Anything else we want to bring up in enjoyment?
Man, it's hard because I have so many quotes from this show, but they almost want to fit into part of my technical discussion. But no, I got one for you. I got one for you guys right here.
Okay, do it.
Episode 2, at the very start, when she's introducing him to the game she wants to cosplay, right? This adult game.
Oh, yeah.
He says a couple lines to the tune of, a guy going to an all-girls schools is typical. And also, sex slaves, but they're doing it for love is vanilla? What are you talking about?
Oh, and then there were a couple parts where when he's studying the game, and his grandpa's sees through the doorway, and then
respect, but why are you taking notes?
And then when he's talking about the game, he's like, oh, and he can't stop
ejaculating
on stage. Oh man, there were a couple parts I laughed out loud during this show. That's for sure. I think there was some good humorous moments in this show.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
I think the grandpa was one of my favorite inserts because just the way he reacted to this, it was just slides the door shut.
Yeah, I mean, he eventually gets caught on. Once they finally fill him into what's going on, it's oh yeah, and here's the notes on this part of the dress that you made, and he gets moved in there. But I just again, I want to just laud the awareness this show has about its own content, which many anime don't have.
Yeah, and to that point, though, one of the things that I would actually give him credit for, and was a point that I enjoyed, was, I'm not sure if you mentioned this earlier, Braydn, but how accurate they were. And how in-depth and how much detail they put into the different cosplay mechanics and things that they had to do to achieve this aesthetic.
Yep.
The amount of detail, it was not lost on me. I'll just phrase it that way.
I was just drinking it in.
Oh, yeah. Well, and again, kind of like I mentioned earlier, it was the amount of stuff that I learned was wow, there's a lot more to this than I initially thought, and now I have a new level of respect for it. Even just the whole eye tape thing alone.
Yeah, the face tape stuff, so you could reshape your face for cosplay.
Yeah, that was pretty nuts. I was like, whoa.
Or the choice he made of using the heavier material because it's more rich, but then that translating into a much more heat-intensive cosplay that she's dying in later on. What is that note? That's really good, anime. That's really, really good to catch on. We haven't seen that level of attention detail since, like, A Place Further Than the Universe.
Yeah,
You know what I
really.
mean? With the Antarctica trip, they by Dress Up Darling, you did good. You did real good, crew. Yep. I
The
guess.
same even goes for the Hina dolls as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned a lot about Hina dolls, actually. In fact, it inspired me after the show to go Google Hina dolls, because that's not a part of that. Like, that is a very not anywhere else. That is Japanese culture.
It's very
like,
niche.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
exclusively. And so I had never been exposed to Hina dolls really until this show. And so I went and Googled them and learned a little bit about them, and it was really interesting.
The comparison I would make to the Hina dolls is like English porcelain dolls, but even then,
yeah,
like the Japanese Hina dolls are on a different level.
Skyler, I got a question for you.
Go for it.
In your fun facts, do you bring up the name of the show at all? Because so I'm gonna insert this here just because you just said that thing. It's like they're reminiscent of English, porcelain dolls or whatever.
Yeah.
The Japanese name of the show is Sonobisdol Wakoi wo Suru, which, if you speak Japanese, I'm sorry, but what that translates to is not My Dress Up Darling. It dress ups to That Bisque Doll Falls in Love.
Yes.
A bisque doll being an English porcelain doll.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So, yes, exactly on the nose, actually, Skyler. Yes.
Yep. So yeah, sorry. So for the the fun fact section, there.
Well, let's just do it. Unless you
Okay.
guys have anything else to add.
I have one last quote for you, and I'm going to jump right in. In the final episode, our dear Marin says, "You can do anything with the right attitude and with someone to carry you when you're down." As he's carrying her off from the fireworks or whatever from walking around all night. Sweet, inspiring, true. Thank you. Cheers to that.
Yep, cheers to that.
Okay, let's get into it. Skyler, tell some fun
All
facts.
right. So
There's our transition.
okay, sweet. So yeah, with the fun facts, there wasn't really any good sources that I was finding, but from the manga, if you read the manga, there will be these inserts between chapters or even at the end of volumes where the author or the artist will like put themselves into like a little 4 type thing, and they'll explain like something that they did in making the comic or some discussion they had with their editor. And so there's a lot of interesting tidbits that you can kind of pull out from going and reading these little mini comics about the comic.
That's cool.
And so some of them involves like him calling a Hina doll shop to like go and tour around. And he was like super anxious because it's not a common request. And yet he was really surprised when they're like super supportive and they're like really like trying to like, oh, and there's this detail over here. Do you want to get a picture of this? And like being overly like supportive of him going through and like taking photos of everything in the shop, including their tools and how they do stuff.
That's really cool because that shows up in the show, in the anime.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So he does the same thing with cosplayers where he like goes to cosplay shops and he just like, I think like he's even been to like wig shops and he's just like, hey, can you like walk me around, tell me what everything is, and I just take pictures of everything? They're like, oh yeah, sure. And they walk him through a wig shop and he just takes photographs of everything.
That
Really,
is
really interesting.
very good.
That's cool.
And then there was another thing. Oh yeah, so this is another note about the author. He cried after watching the first couple of anime episodes
Aww.
because he was just so happy that his work had been converted into an anime that he just cried. So that was kind of a sweet thing.
Oh.
Cool.
And
Oh.
so he is noted or quoted as saying that he wanted a more wholesome relationship between Marin and Gojo. But again, this is where it goes back into the enjoyment section, which is where there wasn't enough of it. There needs to be more progression for me to be satisfied.
Yeah. Agreed.
And then the last couple of notes, just Mal. It actually does pretty well, all considered. Its MAL popularity rank is 189. So when you consider how many thousands of anime there are out there by now, it's respectable. And the MAL ranking is 253. So there's those two interesting tidbits. And then I guess to circle back, on your title thing, Braydn, one thing that is interesting if you go to like certain publication stores, they'll list out every single name in all the different languages for a title. And sometimes a manga or a light novel will have 4 different names in the same language.
Oh, really?
Because it's just different ways of translating it. So like this one has like 2 or 3, kind of like you said. Because one is the literal translation of My Beautiful Doll Falls in Love, I think is the literal translation.
Okay.
Or something to that effect. And then, the My Dress Up Darling.
Which, I mean, we'll talk about this later, but they do many, many efforts in this show to properly translate this to English. They also have it translated to, 8 other languages, but I like how they landed the English translation through and through.
So, those are your fun facts for My Dress Up Darling.
Sweet. Thank you, Braydn. I believe you have another cool segment plan for our bonus episode.
Yeah, we're gonna jump off of our love for cosplay that's been grown into by this show. We're gonna talk about, just for a minute, cosplays that we would like to do. Like I've never done too much cosplay besides that one for the episode we did. Mm-hmm. And our little light, winter clothing for the place for the universe episode. But this really got me like in the mood for it. So I kind of have to have the conversation with you guys. Let's just take one of us at a time and just kind of talk about what cosplay we like to do and why we like to do that. Feel free to jump in with any comments, but who would like to lead in and give us their kind of list? Skyler?
I'll jump in first and say I would like to kind of cosplay as a Gojo because I see myself as someone who wants to like build the costumes and build the props, but not necessarily wear them.
That's a great cosplay for you.
So you could show up to a convention in Gojo's getup and then have the cosplay first aid, sign attached to you, right?
Yeah. And the funny thing is I actually do have sewing experience and making stuff out of fabric and doing that type of crafting. So it's not that far off. I have 0 Hina doll experience, but that's completely different.
That's okay. Who has Hina doll experience? All right. Okay, what else do you have? Yeah, run us down your list.
Oh, run it down the list. I thought we were going to rotate off. I guess the second thing that would come to mind, like if I were going to cosplay, I'd actually want to do a video game cosplay of like a hunter from Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, absolutely. Who wouldn't want to do one of those cosplays? Those are sick. I would want
to do a warlock from Destiny.
There you go.
Those are our main classes.
Yeah, and then you could find somebody else to do the third one because I don't play Destiny 2, unfortunately.
The Titan.
But yeah, you can find somebody for a Titan cosplay.
Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, old Buzz Steve. There you go.
What else you got, Sky?
Oh boy. Outside of that, I don't know. Like, I enjoy watching a YouTube channel called Punish Props where they just go through and they make props and they'll sometimes do full cosplay setups. And that's always spoken to me. So it's like, oh yeah, I will want to have like a full-size Kirito sword or like make an Edward Elric, full metal like cloak or jacket.
Sure.
So like there's little bits and pieces that I'd want to make of just all these different animes. But none that I would necessarily want to cosplay.
In essence, you just want to do the Gojo part of cosplay.
I want to do the Gojo bit.
Well, I appreciate you pulling forward a couple answers regardless. But that's solid. And pretty neat. I mean, if you guys ever do the Destiny 2 cosplay, let me know. I want to be there taking pictures of that for you guys for sure. How about you, Brett? You ready? You got a list for us?
Yes.
All right, run us down your list.
All right, so I have to have 2 lists because there's the list with my mustache and then there's the list without my mustache. Because there's a lot you can do prosthetic wise, but covering up a curly Q mustache is really difficult without like latex and paint and I don't know if I'd be willing to do all of that. So my mustache list includes Alex Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yes,
if
sir.
I was twice as tall and 4 times as buff. But where that's unlikely, I think I could actually pull off Fuhrer Bradley with cutting my hair, having the eye patch. I have some pretty strong jawbones, and I think that'd be a really dope.
Oh, the military uniform would be so fun too.
Yeah, and I have some swords around my house I
Sure.
could even use.
Sure.
Another one I think would be really cool and super easy would be Netero from Hunter x Hunter. I'm specifically referring to the final version of Netero where he fights Meruem, and he has nothing but the goatee and the mustache and the bun in the back, and he wears the t-shirt. So I need to commit to some heavy lifting, but he and I have similar, I'm a little bit taller than him, but similar like body structure. So that would actually be a super dope cosplay.
Absolutely.
I would love to do that one.
Jeez.
But no
you have
mustache.
a little slit right here so you can puncture your own heart, right?
Yep. But no mustache. I would do either Kirito from Sword Art Online. I got the black hair, and I would love to have the cloak.
And you and Bridget doing Kirito and Asuna.
I know. Me and
it's
Bridget
so
doing
good.
Kirito and Asuna would be great. So in fact, for Christmas a couple years ago, Bridget paid a artist to do a version of me and her as Sword Art Online characters. I've got it hanging up here in my office. We'll include it in this episode as a picture for everyone to look at right here. Go to our YouTube channel. Check out the picture. It's cute. It's cool. Back when Bridget had short hair and I had shorter hair as well. Anyway, and I would love to cosplay as my main man, the English dub hero from Steins Gate. I would love to be Hoenn Kioma.
Hoenn Kioma.
And I would talk like him too all day. So
I mean, that I've talked with a couple different shows, but that would be a fun group cosplay to do.
yeah. And that brings me to my last point, unless Braydn, you want to do the announcement.
The announcement of
Yes.
I don't have any
Our
cosplay
plan.
announcements. Oh, that thing.
Cosplay plan.
Cosplay plan. Because we talked about one, but you guys didn't like the show, so I don't know if we're doing. Are we doing that
Oh no,
still?
we're doing it. We're doing it. Okay, next year.
It's on my list. Yeah, hit it.
Next year, 2023, California, the Crunchyroll Anime Convention. We're going to do a group cosplay as the characters from Arakawa Under the Bridge.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going to do the star head guy.
We're going to do Sister with the gun
Kappa.
and the Kappa.
Going to do the Kappa. Going to do Sister. We're going to do the characters from Arakawa.
Oh, man.
Most of us didn't love the show that much, but it's going to be a funny cosplay. So if you're going to be in California next year during the Crunchyroll Con, look for us there.
I am so glad that we're doing that because I wasn't there for the I missed the club meetup, and so I'm very happy that we're actually going to do that because I think that'd be so much fun. You guys know what you want to do for that one yet? If who wants to be the Kappa?
We thought you could be the Kappa.
I could definitely pull a Kappa. Absolutely.
I'm gonna be the main. I'm gonna be the main guy.
Main guy?
Just
Okay.
with a tie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bridget then can be what's her butt?
No, Megan is gonna be my lover.
Oh, okay. The Venusian.
Bridget wants to be the verbally abusive
Maria.
chick who just insult people all day.
And we know Andrew, who starred in the ping pong episode I did on here. He wants to do Sister, like really
Yep.
bad, like really bad.
Yep.
Oh,
So-
goodness. All right, well, let's get onto my list, and then we'll move on with the rest of the show.
Yeah, Braydn, what do you want to call?
So, first two favorite anime characters of all time. I want to do Gugu from 2 Year Eternity. Because, A, that helmet would be dope, man! I think it'd be sick! And I definitely, work up, get ripped for that fit, because it's so stinking good. But then right next to that fit is a Nosuke from Demon Slayer, who's the exact same getup with a boar head, and that's easy translation to do.
There you
I
go.
love those guys. I'd love spouting out their energy for a day. That'd be so fun.
Yeah.
Then I was thinking, from Ping Pong the animation, actually, there's a character that's called the Hero that is referenced to in the past. It's like this silly like robot costume that has a ping pong. He does a whole pose thing. I would love doing that at conventions. And I also had the Psycho Helmet Religion figure, or the Divine Tree, from Mob Psycho 100 Season 3, which
Okay.
I know you guys haven't seen it yet, so that's one for the fans to enjoy. And then I don't know who yet, but somebody from Skate the Infinity would be so sick to be able to cosplay us. I have the longboard. I just gotta trick it out. I gotta get some kind of like look together. I'm not sure I could really do any single one of those characters, and I'd love it.
Yeah.
So
That'd be cool.
that's what I was daydreaming about. And I don't know. Yeah, cosplay is cool, crew. Especially seeing how they had conversations in our show, bringing it back to Dress Up Darling, about you could be whoever, you could be whatever gender you want to be, whether you want to represent male or female for your character. You don't have to look like them, because you can change even your entire face with the tape if you really want to, and makeup can do wonders. Just do it.
Yeah.
It's inspiring. I want to take it. I don't know where I'm going to do any of these, but I want to do it. I want to do some of these for sure.
That'd be cool. Can I throw in a twist also for our bonus episode? Maybe we flip the script a little bit here. Normally, we share our comparisons and recommendations to show you should watch if you liked My Dress Up Darling at the end. We're going to do it in the middle. So, let's take a little departure and let's talk about what shows we recommend you watching if you liked My Dress Up Darling.
Yep.
I'll start.
Take it.
So what I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with a little slew of shows, because here's the thing. You go look up ecchi anime, you're going to find a whole bunch of tons of lists. So let me just share a few that I think are more reserved in their approach to the ecchi genre, but not, but still kind of there. So here's some of my recommendations for there. You got Serve and X Service, School Days, How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend, Don Machi, Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon, Season 1, Scum's Wish, Don't Toy With Me, and if you want to go even further, Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World, which is like more on the line of ecchi. So there's just a slew of them in that vein. Okay, Skyler, Braydn, what do you got? And then I'll give some serious recommendations.
Okay, we kind of mentioned it earlier, but A Place Further Than the Universe.
Okay.
It's just really, really a beautiful world, and again, the attention to detail is very similar between the two. And A Place Further Than the Universe has a very, very solid story. So one that I would highly recommend.
Sweet. Braydn.
I'm also going to lead in with one of my stronger recommendations, with Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Yeah.
It hits the same beats. It has strong sexual overtones that leads into a really powerful sub-message. So it's the same shtick. It does a lot more with mental illnesses and very, very cool conversations regarding people's manifestations, like spiritual manifestations of such. And it is delightful interactions between the main character and his love interest. So, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
All right, I'm going to give my first serious recommendation, and it's actually scarily similar. It's going to be Smile Down the Runway. So, story of a girl who wants to represent her father's agency in Paris Fashion Week, but she's too short. And a boy who wants to become a fashion designer. And fate brings them together, and then there you go. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Instead of cosplay, it's fashion. And so, yeah. Smile Down the Runway. Skyler.
I'm going to give one called Laid Back Camp. And this one's just a chill slice of life. And again, like I said, where a hallmark of a good slice of life is where you watch it and you're suddenly really interested or want to go do this activity. Laid Back Camp hits that for camping during the winter.
All right, Skyler, I've had that recommendation from you like for 5 episodes after this show. Now it's going on my list now because it sounds pretty good. It is now on my list.
If you're into slice of life, it is a good one. If you're not into slice of life, stay away from it.
I'm not into K-On! So don't defend it if you're going to say K-On! But this is great. I love Dress Up Darling.
K-On!, they truly do nothing. It's supposed to be about music, but they truly do nothing.
So we don't recommend that one. All right, my other more strong recommendation is gonna take a little bit in the conversation that I had in that sports anime and our slice of life anime have a lot in common. With popular favorite making a return, Yuri on Ice.
Hey, it's back!
It's back! Reborn from season 1. It's back, making an appearance. I was trying to honestly go through a lot of my sports anime, kind of find which one would tie in best well with my Dress Up Darling. And Yuri on Ice has the strongest love relationship between all the ones that I've seen. So, of ties of passionate investiture into an activity, ice skating in this case, and also having a romance that is immaculately animated. Like, this show is ridiculously good. I'm going to throw in Yuri on Ice. Earnestly, for the first time in a long time. I'll bring that show back as a recommendation.
And a bit of a different relationship, too, right?
That's true. It's true.
Yep. This is a two men relationship, not a male and a female relationship.
I mean, not even that. I mean, yes, but not even that. Like, they're a little bit more on the passionate longing for each other relationship than like the cute little high school relationships.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That whenever I recommend Laid Back Camp, actually, I keep on wanting to say Yuri, but it's not Yuri. It's Yuru.
Yuru.
Because Yuri is thrown around everywhere.
Uh-huh.
All right. So my next recommendation, I'm gonna skip genres, but it has a lot of similar themes. So if you liked the fact that My Dress Up Darling had a female lead that was really outgoing, not shy, very sexually aware and mature, but you wanted them to be a couple, I'm going to recommend Darling in the Franxx. The mecha anime. It's got a lot of similar vibes, but they actually, kind of develop their relationship a little bit more than in My Dress Up Darling. It's an interesting one. It's good. Yeah, Darling in the Franxx.
It's on my list, that's for sure.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it.
We might have to do an episode on that one because there are some interesting stuff that happens in there.
Yeah.
I'm down, crew. Absolutely.
Put in the comments if you want us to do an episode on Darling in the Franxx. Let us know. Skyler, any other recommendations?
Yeah, to do the opposite of what you did, I'm going to recommend Komi-san Has Trouble Communicating.
Oh, I've been wanting to watch that one. Oh,
so
it's on my list.
one of the characters in Komi-san is the same type of character, which is a Gyaru, Gyaru. That's the type of character that Marin is. There's a similar character in Komi-san, and it's just a slice of life drama. The anime hasn't gotten far enough for it to be considered a romance yet. But
type of character is very introverted, is what it translates to.
That's Komi. No, Komi is the introvert, but one of the other main characters is a Gyaru, which is very outgoing, very...
Oh, I see. Sorry. I got that mixed. Yeah.
But yeah, Komi-san, as close to mute as you can have a main character be.
Yep.
Braydn.
So yeah, I have one more recommendation. It's a very soft tie recommendation, but for a character being pulled out of their comfort zone, I recommend Arakawa Under the Bridge. This delightful little wackadoo, stinking episodic as can be story of a guy who will not give favors to anybody, being owed his life to the most out there homeless hobo under a bridge. You could imagine. It's surprising at every stinking turn. And it's a wild ride. It's not really a romance. There's some like notes in there. Yet, if you like the notion of being pulled out of your comfort zone, even further than this guy did with his dolls being translating up to cosplay, I'm going to recommend Arakawa Under the Bridge. But also, like, I just want to shout out to our viewers. I love this type of show. Like, my Dress Up Darling is like really strong, like there's like romance ties, and there's also like strong, like teaching moments, like with the cosplay underneath it. Strong. If you have any recommendations, please throw those in the chat for me. Throw those in the comments, because I want to see more stuff that hits this ties, because this is great. I love this show. I love the show so much.
Sweet. I'll give 2 more quick ones. One is going to be Horimiya, romance comedy.
I was thinking about that one.
Where they're actually a couple, satisfying in that way. They have a physical relationship. I really liked Horimiya. I think Horimiya is one of the best romance comedies of recent times. Really good. And then the last one I'll give, or the last 2 I'll give in quick succession, Watakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku, and Shikamori's Not Just a Cutie. Both fairly recent. Watakoi is about an adult couple who gets not married, but they get together, they live together. And then Shikamori's Not Just a Cutie is just kind of your typical, it's kind of like Horimiya, but like less good. So there's a couple more. And then a really obscure one that I don't think a lot of people have seen is Blue Spring Ride. That'll be my last recommendation. Okie dokie.
Alrighty.
All right, we did recommendations. We did some fun facts. We did who we would want to cosplay as. Now it's time to get into the technical. So, you can find our technical rubric on 310anime.com, 310anime.com. You can also find a bunch of other fun stuff there. Go check it out. As for our technical rubric, what we do is we try and give the show a score from 1 to 5 in 4 categories. Art, story, characters, delivery. 1 is terrible, 5 is exceptional, 3 is meh. Meh is on par with what you'd expect from a decent show. It doesn't stand out for being exceptionally good or bad. We go top to bottom, starting with art. Skyler, can you tell us what a 1 and a 5 is for art?
Sure thing. 1, terrible. The composition is frequently ugly, messy, disjointed, bland, boring, repetitive, and poorly done. A 5, exceptional. The composition is always beautiful, cohesive, fitting, engaging, notable, ambitious, and expertly performed.
Okay. What are we thinking?
I think I would have to... I don't know, because there were a few scenes that I remember watching that were like really, really good.
Yeah.
but it wasn't the whole way through. I have 0 notes on art for the show. I think it was nice. It was nice. There was more detail than I expected from a typical show. Yeah, for sure. But I don't know anything about any highlights here. What are you gonna say, Brett?
I was gonna say that I think My Dress with Darling fits into the category of modern good animation. Like it's bright, it's vibrant, the saturation is high, the characters are really dynamic in their movement. There's attention to detail to the things that need attention to detail, like the clothes, the fabric, the Hina dolls, the sewing machines, but there's not an over amount of detail in the stuff that doesn't need it, like buildings, backgrounds, backdrops, etc. So I think it's just like it's your modern good animation. That's what I was gonna say.
Better than typical anime, I would say. Because I remember actually a couple of times. Not something specific, unfortunately, but they really did some detailed hand interactions, or they did some body movements that were well followed through with in the anime. The music came I remember liking the music. It notably was an interesting composed pieces throughout the show, but not anything that stood out or blew my mind. Modern. I like this modern word you tossed in, Brett. That's good. I like the taste of that. It's modern good.
I would agree. And
I'm gonna do something bad, and I'm gonna say I need to make one more recommendation because I just was inspired.
Whoa.
If you want a show that's also new in 2022, came out right after My Dress Up Darling, and the art is super unique and interesting. It's also a romance comedy where the female lead is more sexually forward. It is Call of the Night.
Oh.
That one has some
There you
art
go.
that art, like, here's why I bring that one up. The art from Call of the Night stands out. Like, it's like, ooh, that is a unique style. The color palette, really, really fascinating. The way that they show, like, it's weird because it'll be the middle of the night. You'll be looking at a landscape over here, and all the buildings are green. And then the sky is this really interesting color with the stars. And then the camera turns over here, and now all the buildings are like purple and blue, and it's just really interesting art style, and it's actually really engaging and really pretty. My Dress Up Darling, it doesn't really stand out for art. It's good.
Okay.
Anyway,
All right.
The one
that's
that
why I remembered it.
I see.
yeah, the one to compare to that, and I haven't seen it, is the Blade Runners Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime that came out at the same time.
Yes. Very vibrant, very, very expressive. So yeah, if we are kind of done on notes here, are we talking around a 4, a 3.5? What are we thinking?
4? It's like a solid 4.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'd want to do is just go to our podcast rankings here and see what else did we give a 4. We've given a 4 to Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions, Ancient Magus Bride, of course, Recoil, Jujutsu Kaisen, Ranking of Kings, Cells at Work. I'm thinking more of a 3.5 for My Dress Up Darling, just because, and here's why. Some things I do think were good, but I think for the most part, where it's like, yeah, it's what you'd expect from a modern show from a high level studio. It's good, but it's not like I think I don't know. What do you guys think?
So I don't know if this goes here or if it goes into characters, but I love this is a plus point, kind of leaning towards the 4. I love when characters are given like a lot of different outfits. Just like
me too. Yeah.
dumps of different character designs and setups. And they did pull in characters holding like their form in many different outfits for across a bunch of different characters. And even more than that, even if they totally changed the character, they still held the character's form. So yeah, I don't know if this goes into characters or if it goes into art, but there might be a lane there.
I might actually split this between story and art, because story has to do with world building being like the different costumes and just what fashion is there.
Sure.
Art being the execution of the fashion.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the reason I would propose a 3.5 is because if we go down our 4 list, right, and we don't have to judge it this way, but like Grimgar, Ranking of Kings, Jujutsu Kaisen, like all 3 of those have things that really stand out in the art department, right? Like Jujutsu Kaisen, it's the fighting animation and the art style. Grimgar, it's the watercolor backgrounds. It's Ranking of Kings, it's the entire art style. Like, I think our 4s are a little bit higher, and I think
well,
if we go
there's
down
a reason for that.
if we go down the 3.5s, I think it fits kind of more in with some of those. Like I could go either way, is what I'm saying. We gave Full Metal Alchemist a 3.5. That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime a 3.5. For art, and I think it fits nicely in between 3.5 and 4. So you guys decide. I'm good either way.
3.75 would be a great score, but that one doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
Yep.
I want to say that the lack of ambition is like kind of what we noted here. Is like there's nothing like unique to this style. There's nothing like striving for. They did do the bite I like of playing with a lot of different mediums across chibi and manga and anime within anime. They did utilize different styles, which is good in kind of an ambitious form. I don't. Yeah, because it's just kind of just nice, is what it is. It's nice plus.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
exactly. It's nice plus, but it's not really like. It's not. I guess it's not often ambitious. It's not often like exceeding. You know what I mean?
I take
well,
that. I'll
but
take
to
that.
that point as well, though, there's not that much going on because it's like where you talk about the action scene there. This isn't a sports anime. This isn't an action anime. There isn't those opportunities to really go into these motions. It's all
That
really
said,
simple,
though,
straightforward.
sticking a place further than the universe.
That
Nailed
one did
it.
and that one did, and that's why it is a 4.5, and why Violet Evergarden is a 5.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But-
don't know.
I just think the shows that we've given a 4 stand out more. This show.
I want to actually propose that we need to sometime go over our scores. Now that we've finally broken the 5 bubble, we might need to go over our scores and reevaluate the art section.
Fair. We also we did, for those who don't know, or maybe you do if you follow us for a while, we updated our rubric. So for season 1 of our podcast, the art section specifically was not really fleshed out that well. And so we did an overhaul between season 1 and season 2 of our technical rubric for art, and it's been a lot better. So maybe we should have an episode of our podcast, a bonus episode, where we go back and re-rank art for all of our season 1 shows.
Yeah, Ranking King should have gotten a 4.5, right? Anyway, that's a question for another time.
Jujutsu Kaisen should have gotten a 4.
If we,
I agree with the
gave
Jujutsu Kaisen, not necessarily.
Jujutsu Kaisen 0 a 4.5 for art, the movie. And I
Yeah.
actually do remember. I think I'd stick by that.
okay, anyway, we obviously have an episode here. We're doing this. Okay, can we lock that in? We'll put that in for another day. We're going to do this. This is
Okay,
good.
we'll do that another day.
Yes.
But for this day,
This day,
What were
this
we-
anime.
All right, let's go to our rubric.
Okay, let's
Is
lock
it
in.
on par with what you would expect from a decent show? It doesn't stand out for being exceptionally good or bad,
Yep.
or is it the composition is often beautiful, cohesive, or other keywords?
Fitting, yeah, ambitious.
Well,
things.
beautiful, cohesive, fitting, engaging, notable, ambitious, and expertly performed. Is it often beautiful?
All right, I'm gonna lock in my answer. 4. I think it holds up. I think it holds up in interesting spheres, and I think it does the best it has with this medium to express properly what it's trying to convey. I think it's notable. I think it's above typical shows. I'm gonna put it at a 4 for my vote.
And there's even a couple scenes that are notable on top of that, I would say. Only a couple scenes, but
Yeah.
they're still there.
Skyler, what are you thinking?
I'm on a 4.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. Locked in at a 4.
Okay.
Boom.
Tasty.
Hey, that brings us on to story. Story includes plot devices, tone/mood, continuity, world building, pacing, rules and systems, tropes. Skyler, what's a 1 and a 5?
1. Terrible. The story was frequently nonsensical, inconsistent, boring, confusing, ambiguous, unoriginal, and disappointing. 5. Exceptional. The story was always consistent, well-paced, comprehensible, consummate, on point with mood and tone, and unique. So, one thing I want to throw out there real quick. In worlds that are essentially based in our world in real life, instead of world building, I can also replace this with how well researched they are on the subject they are telling the story in.
I mean, we'll put it under the umbrella under the same word, I think. But yes, I see what you're saying.
But just the note on where this is, there isn't really any world building that they need to do. It's just the research that they did instead to flesh out this aspect of our world that they're telling the story of.
Sure. There's I can argue this point, but I don't feel like I need to. So yeah, okay, I'll allow that. So what are you saying here? You lean into
It
the
was good.
cosplay stuff?
Yeah, it was really, really well researched, and that's a plus for it.
I mean, sick and inspirationally researched, honestly. This show makes me very happy. And well informed. Like I feel like I'm a more educated person just from watching this show, and I was entertained by the storyline. Like kudos to them.
Which is why I threw it out there to start off.
Yeah,
with.
that's honestly an exceptional point that they do not relent on in this show.
Yeah. I'll okay. From moving on to another point.
Yep.
I'm actually gonna say that I think the story, the plot of this show is not the strong suit of the show.
I agree.
I think the characters are what drive the show, and the plot points that they're in aren't really that. I'm just gonna say they're not that strong, and here's what I mean by that. Like, I think the first outfit is super memorable, right? First outfit, super memorable because it's the first one. It's from that game. It's funny. It's this that. But then like, if you haven't seen the show in a couple months and you're like, I don't exactly remember what the other outfits were, but I knew they were together and having a good time, and I remember the moments where they interacted. I think that's a big part of it, and a lot of people I've talked to about the show, I'll ask them, I'll be like, hey, so like, what was your favorite like outfit? And they're like, oh, like the first one, but like it's hard for them to remember. And like, and so I guess what I'm saying is I don't think the plot was actually a strong part of the show, because really it was just about how the characters interacted. And then it could have been, any convention, any outfit, any whatever. I think they actually could have done more with the plot. Like, I think it's slow in the first season on purpose, but I think if there was a little more emphasis into like the type of event they were going to, or what happened at the event, or like, you know what I mean? I guess the plot just wasn't that memorable. It wasn't necessarily like unique or consummate.
Yeah, I'll even throw in, it's a bit ambiguous of what the plot actually is for the show.
Yeah.
Like they have this natural progression of these characters interacting with each other, and they're throwing these scenarios in where Grandpa sees the panties on the floor, like, oh snap, the boy, I'm gonna fall and bonk my head, and like do that whole arc thing forward. Like there's obviously some tools they're using to implement some movement with the characters, but naturally they're just letting the characters speak and breathe and express their world to the screen. It's kind of, in fact, it's kind of like the anime Cells at Work in that respect. Is that it's more like trying to express like cosplay and educate us on cosplay than it is trying to have a villain or a main storyline. There's something there, but it's mostly just the characters interacting more than there being an antagonist or something to overcome. They're just talking.
Yeah.
So there's some natural strengths and there's some ambiguous weaknesses. That's what I'm trying to express here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Skyler.
It's interesting that you pull up Cells at Work, because that's the story ranking that we gave Cells at Work is about what I'd want to give this one, which is a 3.
I don't know about a 3.
Well, it's because kind of like Brett was saying, where it's like they had some points that were really stand up, but so did Cells at Work.
Yes.
Because again, where it's it's if I have to sit you down, it's like, oh hey, season 2 is about to start, and I need to get you up to speed on the plot. I can probably do that in a couple of minutes, and you probably won't feel like you're missing all that much in terms of the story.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm going to give you, because the world building in its umbrella form is a incredible strength to this anime, where it is a kind of okay, interesting side note for Cells at Work. It's interesting in context of a textbook for med students for Cells at Work. Well, this is like, no, wait, this is actually like genuinely interesting. And the characters are invested and like into the whole bite. So there's more points here in world building than I would give Cells at Work for their expressing of the content.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think this is a little bit higher than that as well.
I have a note here as well that I want to toss in, is that the anime within anime, or the game within anime, or the manga within the anime, or the horror film within an anime
True.
that they do in this show is a nice world building touch. It's a constant theme that they go back to that actually adds quite a bit to the show and expressing like cosplay and such.
Yeah,
It's-
and I think they did it really well too.
Yeah. Even the last one, or not the horror one, but the succubus manga that they have him read, and they take all the tabs on his book to express that in the shots they take in the Love Hotel. That's a pretty good line of storytelling.
Yeah.
They do that a couple times. So, in fact, that's the main reason they go about anything. I'll think about it. Is there some in fiction that they reference to
Pretty
and like express the story in to build their cosplay off of?
Well, and you said it earlier, where it's kind of similar to a sports anime in that sense, where it's like you have the costume, aka the meat, and everything's leading up to that costume being done, and then as soon as it's done, then it's okay, reset, next costume. Which
That's
is
true.
For the sports anime ones, I actually see that that's a thing in their favor, because every match, whether they win or lose, the results of that match, there's another match that's like raising the stakes because you have a tournament or you have something that you're working towards. That's not really a thing here, because once you've done that costume, I guess sure there is the running thread of like, oh, I want to improve my craft, but that could be said of anything.
Well,
where-
I will grant you here that where that leans to a weaker overall storyline, the individual story beats are still pretty strong. Of you have the content, they have the interest, they make the cosplay. You have the interest, you have to make the content, you have the cosplay. Those are still pretty strong arcs as miniature arcs for this show.
Sure.
So I want to talk more around a 4. So that's what we've tossed out so far is a 3 and a 4. Brett, where are you feeling?
I'm kind of right in between. I'm like a
Oh, no.
2.5. Because I mean, again, I don't see the plot, the pacing. Like, we didn't even talk about the pacing. I think the pacing for the show is fine,
Yeah.
but it's also like it doesn't stand out for being like. Let me say why I would go a 3.5.
Okay.
What pieces do I think were well-paced, comprehensible, consummate, on point, and unique? I think the things that were often that way were the tone and mood, the continuity, the world building. What do I think was meh? The plot devices, the tropes. Like, I'm kind of like split with like the category, so like I'm kind of at a 3.5 myself.
And to your point, yeah, again, there are things that they do really well, but then there are other things that are just so bland and generic that that's what's dragging me down.
Okay.
I think the trope part for me is what like really kind of brings me solid to a 3.5, because like, yes, we talked a lot about it during enjoyment, and I think that
Well,
maybe in delivery we bring it up. but
that's what
think we
I was
bring
going to say, actually.
Okay, we bring it up in delivery.
It's
Okay.
because you could just wholeheartedly remove
edit.
those scenes, like just those frames, and replace it with any other still frame that would work better with the world. I think it's a delivery thing and not a story thing specifically. We're talking about the fan service cuts for those that don't get
Yeah.
the overlays we're throwing.
So yeah, I mean, I'm at a 3.5, but I could also happily go.
I'm
I could happily
fine.
go to a 4.
As well with the 3.5, I just will be in the the disagreement sphere of it to say like a 3.5 is fine for me. I don't think I need to push for a 4 any more than I already have.
That was actually me for art. When you guys decided 4, I was like, okay, I think 3.5, but
Yeah,
let's do it. Like, I'm fine with that.
Skyler, 3.5.
Yeah, I'd be good with the 3.5.
All right, let's do
All
it.
right,
Let's
lock it in.
lock in. 3.5. Moving on to characters. Characters includes their design, development, motivation, action in action, relationships, and personality. Skyler, what's a 1 out of 5?
All right. 1, terrible. The characters are frequently unreasonable, confusing, inconsistent, unreasonably static dynamic, and annoying. 5, exceptional. The characters are always understandable, consistent, reasonable, adequately static dynamic, and relatable.
Okay. I'll start with this one.
Go for it.
So, I'm thinking again. If you think about this show, you think about the characters. I think the characters are the highlight of this show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they were genuinely good characters, if not a little tropey, if not a little what you would expect, right? Like generic, you could even say a little generic. Maybe they stand out a little bit, but you have the super popular and forward girl and the shy guy who gets embarrassed all the time
and just finds himself in kind of a harem. Oh no, how did we get here?
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, I think the characters were good. I think they were good. I don't think they were exceptional. I don't think they were bad. I think they were good characters. I think they were reasonable.
I want to toss in that I really love the conversations that Marin and Gojo have. Like they have beautiful translations between their wildly different personalities that help them merge together into this working relationship with each other. That is a very strong note for this one. That's kind of like the good leans you were talking about, I think, Brett.
Yeah, agreed.
I do want to note, I don't know, I need you guys to correct me on this because I'm not sure if this is inconsistency on Gojo's part. But there's moments where he's understandably being bashful or shy around Marin's behavior. But then he's also in public talking about wild ejaculation from some video game he plays.
Yeah.
This is not just that one scene either. There's a couple times where he's seemingly uncharacteristically okay now with adult content. In expressing it in a public space, whereas he's very, very bashful about that anywhere around Marin when it's just the two of them together. A slight inconsistency, I want to say, for that character.
Yeah. Because to your point, while he's doing his analysis of these adult things, professional is almost the way that I would describe him, because again, it was kind of brought up where he's watching the video, he's watching it, but he's watching it specifically to look for the costume bits. Mm-hmm. And so he's essentially just skimming through just for those parts.
Yeah.
And yeah, for him to go out and be extremely bashful one moment and yet completely open about it another, is a bit...
I could see, him being professional, that makes sense to me. It's when he's in public and he's still, referring to this content in an unabashful way. That seems strange to me.
Yeah.
So, dock on him for that. That's my 2 notes, as I love the conversation. There's only 5 characters in this show. And I will say they blend fairly well together, besides the tropey, lewdness that motivates them between each other. Mm-hmm. They have good conversations between Gojo and the rest of them, or even actually how they build up the younger sister. I can't remember her name. When she finally does her own cosplay, the other characters are the other female characters oh, you look amazing! I know exactly who you are from your cosplay. Way to be! And those conversations always feel natural between the characters. I like that. I really appreciate about this show.
Shinju Inui.
Thank you, Shinju Inu. Yeah. Which?
So what are we thinking? I'm thinking like a 4.
I was gonna say kind of like a 4. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
They are exceptional in some ways, but there's also bites that just are tropey and hold them back.
Yeah. Quick, before we disagree, it's a 4.
I have no other notes to say. That's it. We'll lock it at 4.
As I was thinking about it, I realized that some of the really, really good character points was a story thing, and so I was going to argue for a 4.5 in characters, but the 0.5 moved up 1. To me.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Okay, now we're on to delivery, which includes translation, voice acting, sub and dub, script, and the edit. Skyler, what's a 1 out of 5?
1, terrible. The delivery is frequently cheesy, unbalanced, inappropriate, incoherent, and bland. 5 exceptional. The delivery is always believable, balanced, genuine, understandable, elevating, and enriching.
Okie dokie.
Alrighty. Crew, the dub of this show is phenomenal. It is strangely really good. Let me hit you with some quotes from the show. I went a little stalker sauce and followed you home. That was in episode 6. Episode 8, I look like a lizard lobster. Episode 9, you left me on red, which is a very English current term of you read my message but you didn't reply to me. And then in I don't have the episode number for this one, but Marin says, "Go Joe, let's go." And that's a very English on-bar thing to say, exactly what she was trying to express with her phenomenon. I don't remember if those are in the Japanese version because I just watched an entire English dub version, but they do very well in this translation.
And the subtitles also very good. Her use of informal language and slang super good in the sub as well. Like
Yep.
I think plus marks there definitely. Yeah. Anime is getting better at that. I want to say, like, translations have not been great at including slang and like particularly translating to like English slang, but subs have gotten a lot better at doing that recently. Like I think that's a bar that is continually being raised in the genre, which is really cool to see.
I will say, if you have a Gyaru main character and they don't do slang very well,
Yep.
that's a big dock.
Yep, absolutely. So there's that, and then we also want to throw in that the fan service shots were there's probably better things could have done here, and cut those out. That part of the edit here in delivery, you didn't need some of those shots, which
And
might
granted,
be
just to be clear, right? Like that's also like a lot our opinion and our preference, right? Like a lot of people, like that's the point of the show. It's a show about getting dressed up. Like you got to see some boobs, you got to see some butt shots. Like it's part of the experience. Like that's why you're there. It's thematic. It's whatever. So like I get if some people are like, that like what are you talking about? That's the point of this kind of show. So part of that is our own preference. But
I mean,
anyway,
I want to clarify a little bit on mine. Is that yes, and yet there. I don't believe all fan service should be cut out of this show. That's very egregious to say.
Totally.
There is some small notes where they over involve it, where I think that's inappropriately to add. There are
I'll
many
add in
points
some
it is
specific-
well justified and should
I'll
definitely
add in
be
some
here.
specific examples if I could.
Hit.
For example, Sajuna Inui, the older, shorter sister, right? Shot of her on her laptop, laying on her stomach in bed, from behind, looking up her skirt for like 2 whole seconds.
Yep.
Before it shows what she's working on the laptop.
Yep.
Is that really needed? Is it thematic? Does it add anything? Not really. It's just kind of egregious. Like that. Those are the kind of shots that I think we are referring to. That's like.
Well said, Brett. Well
They
said.
don't, they don't really add anything. They're not even thematic. It's just the kind of fan service that is common in anime that we think should be less common.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I guess part of my philosophy is like, if that's what you have to rely on to keep your audience, then that means that everything else is pretty weak, if that's what you need to rly on.
And
And
I
don't
just
think
want to
they did
say
that too.
they didn't need to rely on that. That's why I'm saying
No.
they can definitely remove that.
No, they didn't. No.
But that's also why I think that we go after it when we do see it.
I mean, so are we talking around a 4.5 on the show for delivery?
I don't think I can go that high. I'll be honest.
Because
I
I'm
think like a
thinking
4.
I'm thinking, because I was thinking 4.5 with just the translation and the subtitles by themselves. And then I could say that doc is enough to take it down. But if it's ever almost always believable, balanced, and genuine, is the script and the voice acting in this show. maybe not extraordinary in the voice acting scene. Actually, I'm going to toss you that there. Is that there's not all of the 5 characters have like unique voices. I want to say that some of them are just kind of anime voices. But there's good
only
ones.
Marine has like a standout voice actor. I think all the other characters are just
The grandpa also has
generic.
a pretty in-character actor.
His is good. His is good.
So, okay, I'll give you that there as well. So, yeah, I'll talk around a 4. I'm happy with that.
Just for reference, some shows that we've given a 4 in delivery to includes Haikyuu, Demon Slayer, Kaguya-sama, Cowboy Bebop.
Okay. I mean, I can't. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll just reinforce there are some strong elements here for delivering this show, and it has fan service, like egregious fan service that's going to hold it back. So, there's also the only notable thing about the delivery is the voice acting and the script. That's great, and then that's kind of it. You're on a run stride there, so
yeah.
it has something that holds us back. It's good. I'm saying a 4.
Yeah, I think the delivery is often believable, balanced, genuine, understandable, elevating, and enriching. Yeah, I think I could go 4. Yeah, I think I could go 4. I think I could go 4.
All right.
Maybe 3.5, but 4. I could go 4.
Skyler, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking a 4.
All right.
All right.
Let's
Honestly,
lock it in
vibe.
as a 4. Okay, which means we have art 4, characters 4, story 4, delivery 4, story 3.5. We almost had a straight run of 4s on the one show that we all gave a 7.5. Man, it was almost a magical episode. But with that being said, that gives us a total score of 7.75. Braydn, where does that rack us up?
All right. We have 3 other shows with a 7.75 scoring. First of all, being Cowboy Bebop, with its exceptional art score and kind of middling story and characters. We have Toradora, with its exceptional character score and middling art and delivery. And Haikyuu, with, again, its exceptional character score and middling story and art. So, Cowboy Bebop, Toradora, Haikyuu, and now My Dress Up Darling.
Yeah, one other interesting note there. Haikyuu and Toradora both got 5s in characters, but they got low marks in story and art. My Dress Up Darling got 4s, so a higher average per item.
For you
score.
data nerds out there, there's a little interesting fact for you.
Yeah.
Just to break the glass, we are data nerds on this show. We love this stuff.
Yeah.
The spreadsheets are magical.
Spreadsheets for days
For
showing
days.
our AGR, average growth rate, number of episodes per person, average rating, median rating. We got all kinds of stuff. It's fun. It's fun. Okay. This has been bonus number 2. Our next planned bonus episode is going to be the Sword Art Online movie coming out in the winter. Anytime here in the next few weeks, it's going to air in the United States. We're all going to go see it. Then we're going to record the episode on the couch. Bunch of people with a couple microphones. It's going to be really exciting. Definitely tune into that next bonus episode. Also, at this point in time, you are tuned in to the ramp up, the conclusion, the big finale, the crescendo to the release of season 2 of 3 out of 10 anime. You have some crazy episodes coming up. You have a 2-piece mini-series on Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. Then you've got Skyler's special episode of Ancient Magus Bride, and we have the grand finale.
It's a good one. It's
Full
a big
Metal
one.
Alchemist Brotherhood.
It's a good one.
Get ready for those episodes. Thank you so much for tuning into this one. Braydn, Skyler, do you have anything to say before we check off?
Go do cosplays. Post your pictures in the chat. Give us a link, an Imgur link. Because let's spread the love of cosplays. Absolute.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, not really that much to add. There's not many bearded characters for me to go cosplay as. I kind of realized that as well.
All right. Well, go do cosplays. Don't worry, Skyler's not going to shave. We appreciate you all for listening to this bonus episode. Check out the end of Season 2. Thanks for sticking with us. Get excited for Season 3. It's going to be crazy, fun, and exciting, starting Q1 2023. Until next time, Johnny.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.